Well, we have with us Laurence Skelly, of course. The enterprise department is all yours since our last chat. That was all in the changeover, wasn't it, really?
It was, yes.
Wow, we've got a lot to talk about. I think you probably have had the most headlines to bear, and I say that because it's a department, but you are the figurehead of this. I mean, where do we want to start? TT was still rumbling, well, it is still rumbling on even now, isn't it, to some degree? But
how do you mean?
Well,
TT?
just there's still a lot of people not quite sure where it's going or what, if they're happy with it. Should a government be running it? But, I mean, this year overall, are you okay with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's in terms of an event, I think was a fantastic event. It was delivered very well by government across the piece to government with all the volunteers. Exciting races. There were, of course, some terrible tragedies, which was always mars the event. But overall, I think we could be very happy with the event in terms of the delivery of it and the feedback in terms of the public feedback. Especially
interesting, the whole thing you say that, because obviously it could have so easily been in the private sector by now, but you seem very positive the way you just said that, like it is a government event and that's that.
Well, and that was the determination, and even though it was going to have a private sector promotional aspect of it, the delivery of it still happens in terms of the road, the safety, and the marshals and all the other activities. So from a public perception, really there would have been not a huge amount of difference. But I think what we got to do is look at where we are now, and one of the things we've done here is we've not just delivered I would think a very exciting and successful TT despite the incidents and the Festival of Motorcycling too. We've actually now driven real value because we've come to that conclusion. We've actually completed somewhere in the region of about 20 different procurements, and part of that value is bringing over £500,000 worth of revenue or savings to the government's coffers.
To make it commercial?
Well, more commercial, more value, better value, and that's done by driving longer-term agreements.
And things like the TV contract change, the radio contracts up for grabs as such. These are all things. You just think, best value for money, or are you going to shake things up? How do you go into this whole thing?
Well, it's a balance, isn't it? And that is, yes, we've got to demonstrate value for money because this is taxpayers' money, and what we need to do is try and drive that and look for the longevity here now, because we've been doing these rolling contracts year on year on year. Now we can do lengthier contracts and therefore driving, as I say, better value. But we've got to ensure the quality is there as well. So it's not just value; we've got to balance that with quality.
Okay, the other thing that really, in recent times, has been the rally, and they've talked about that, but obviously we had Mr. Collister saying he took responsibility for that, but you're actually the head. Yeah, you just that look in your eyes.
Well,
just gave me that look.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
How do you sum it up then? Who's responsible for these things?
Well, I think first and foremost you've got to accept what the rally is, and the rally was a private event, and as our department we've actually offered support right the way through, and that goes both fiscal and logistical support was offered, and it was their decision to actually cancel it. And then of course there was then it followed from that some political commentary, which is I think the cause of the interview that you did.
Should you be taking the interviews, or should how do you view this? I mean, Mr. Collister in charge, or you in charge? I mean,
well, delegation. You've got a delegation, and therefore that's part of the team. I didn't get called for an interview, so I would have gladly done an interview. I think I was away off Ireland.
I think you were
off Ireland, which would be right and appropriate, for Rob to actually take that interview, which he did.
Okay, how do you get on, you guys?
Me and Rob?
Yeah.
Oh, very well indeed. Yeah.
And do you delegate?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point of delegation.
Okay. Your department, take us through the year. I mean, that's just two things that's just come up to mind. You've had quite a busy year, right?
Well, it is. But I think that's the job and the role. And if you look at the economy, 24 different sectors we represent here on the Isle of Man. That's the diversified economy that we have today. It's taken 10 years to get to that particular point. We've just been talking with regards to TT and motorsport, which is a big part of the visitor economy on the island. But when you look at, we've gone through a major restructuring, a relaunch, rebranding, and we've now in particular finished that particular that journey by creating these executive agencies.
Yes.
So we've now got 50 people now contributing to the economy in terms of a true public-private partnership.
How do you see the department then? I mean, away from the sports side, is it job creation? Is that how you see it? You know, the enterprise pushing us forward?
Yeah, clearly that's what we're trying to do, is drive, in terms of driving the economy forward, what we're looking for is a positive and sustainable growth in the economy. And I think you just got to look a couple of weeks ago with the announcement of the latest figures, 7.4% real terms GDP growth, 4.4 real terms personal income.
Is that a one-off? Is that something that's a spike, do you think? I mean, what's the feeling in your waters on that one? Well, it can't be sustainable. That is massive, isn't it?
It is. I mean, there was a dip the year before, and then you see that come back, and it was over 9% actually. But then you take a look at the employment figures. Unemployment is now a 15-year low, and in some cases there we've halved the long-term unemployment there. We've got job creation and happening all the time, and that's why right centre there is growing the economically active.
Well, you touched on job creation. You had this £50 million pot, which didn't work out, did it, at all?
We did, and it's a very good question, really. Because why? Because when we created that 4 years ago, it was listening to business and industry saying that they are struggling gaining finance to grow their business. You know, there's lots and lots of opportunity, but financing was an issue, particularly through normal institutional finance organisations. So we created a fund that, in effect, it made sure that the Isle of Man was open for business. You know, so here we are 4 years on. We haven't spent a great deal of that, and we've also now got a very, very different environment by local private equity funds operating that weren't in the marketplace beforehand. And secondly, also major competition elsewhere. You know, shortly after us launching that 50 million, there was a 400 million pound fund created in the northwest with a powerhouse.
I mean, it was a costly mistake then. Would you put it down to that? Because I mean, each job worked out at thousands of pounds, wasn't it?
Well,
I mean,
but bear in mind, this is more of an impact fund, i.e. that's all about startup businesses to try and accelerate. You know, so these were difficult, and we took equity stake or loan. And what we've done is obviously decided to curtail that early with agreement with Spark, and that's one of the action points that we did in the programme for government, is to determine a review of all our support schemes. So outside that, we've committed over 10 million through our financial assistance scheme. You know, and there you see, I think what was the small business startup, the macro business startup, where we increased the allowance to small businesses from 5,000 to 6,000, and also give them £80 a week to actually get themselves up and running. Over 150 businesses were started in the last 2 years when we launched the Isle Expo, which is one of our main sort of hallmarks for measurement. Over 550 businesses went through our business support schemes, and we've committed other support outside the enterprise development scheme. So that's one support scheme in 11 different schemes.
What are you going to do with the rest of the money, 48 million of it? Do you get it? Do you hold on to it? Has it got to go back into Treasury?
Well, we're in consultation with Treasury as we speak, as well as we'll be speaking to the agencies, and this is where the agencies, I think, will come into their full being, because what we're asking from the agencies are three main things. Number one, product development, and number two, promotion, and then for policy input. So this sits around about the policy input issue, and I think marketing is a real key element of that as well that we need to think about.
Well, budgets are on everyone's minds right now, because Mr. Cannon is no doubt drawing it up. I mean, this is how you got the last that fund a couple of years ago. I mean, what have you asked him for things? Are you going in there knocking on his door saying we want more money, we need more people?
No, we have a very good, positive, proactive relationship with Treasury. We had a good workshop just over a week ago with Treasury. Very productive, very constructive, and we're clearly always looking to see what are the economic stimulus can be created, and that's, you know, I think working across government. So yes, and you know, talk about results again. You know, I think Treasury in July issued the was it called the light blue book that showed your Treasury receipts were up over 35 million.
So you're doing your job right. You're happy.
So, well, I would suggest that, you know, the results speak for themselves.
Are you happy in the position still?
Yeah, very pleased, and you know, it's gone through a journey which we touched on earlier, and I think it's you know, satisfying to get to that particular point, to say we've gone through this journey. We've dealt with a number of very difficult points, but clearly the economy is performing. People are employed. Personal income is increasing, and investment, and that's another point here. I think, business confidence. We had 2 business confidence survey. The most recent one showed really strong and positive mood in the business community, and that's what we want, because if the business community are confident, they're going to invest and they're going to help drive that.
I haven't really gotten to you at all yet, but quick things. I mean, the work permits, you still want those to be relaxed?
That was one of the very first things we did, Paul, wasn't it? Back in October last year, and then we went live with the automated system in January, and in the business confidence survey, it said that the satisfaction of that had doubled. So that's working very effectively. Turnaround in less than 24 hours for the vast majority.
Living wage isn't, or the increases?
Well, yes, though minimum wage has just come in yesterday, and
we're recording this at the very beginning of October.
Yes, so you see there, it's a really interesting rate, because I think in the last 4 years, looking at the measurement, that minimum wage has increased by, I think, nearly 24%. That's a significant increase over that period of time, outstripping inflation. So we're very pleased, and that's another demonstration. I think the economy is going
to hold on to our younger people here, not to drift off to the UK. Is that
we did that's correct. We removed the bans, and that's also part of recognition of the Equality Act, because there's a very important piece of legislation. One of the first things we did, I think something like 200 clauses we took through and introduced this piece of legislation that was long overdue, and that allowed us to recognise our young people more so.
What are you looking forward to next 12 months? Anything particularly you got your eye on?
Well, I think it's continuing building on what we got. I need the agencies to truly bed in. They've got to now sort of demonstrate their
talk
value.
to each other.
Well, we have, and I was talking yesterday to one of them, and we were, whilst we've got all these people here, and the spin-off to a number of different working groups were quite remarkable. We just had the e-gaming summit just recently. We're talking about blockchain, we're talking about esports, and we're talking about a whole host of media, for example, very well. And so we got these working groups, and there's about 20 more people in addition working in subgroups and trying to come up with policies that we think are right for the Isle of Man and will be a real benefit.
Isle of Media, is that all yours as well? Is that sort of
Isle of Media we support. They're an external organisation, but we do support them.
The Isle Expo thingy, is that coming to an end, or because you haven't heard of what's going to happen?
It was trilogy, so...
was it always that, really, seriously?
Sorry?
Was it always going to be 3, or you just change your mind?
No, absolutely. And I think, this...
But why stop it? Or,
Well, that is the question we're asking of the agencies.
Right.
So when they have responsibility, bear in mind, they've got responsibility for promotion. So that's one of the first questions you ask them. Promotion. Do you value Isle Expo? And if you do value Isle Expo, how much do you think we could dedicate towards it? So each of them have their own sector to think, what is the benefit?
Okay. Talking about you now as a MHK, did you answer the PAG question about how you split your day between, or weeks, months, years, between what you do for the country and what you do for the constituency?
It's peaks and troughs, I would suggest. I think on an average, probably at least 20 open cases for a constituency. Sometimes that peaks up to 40 plus, and some of them require sometimes daily interaction depending on the issues.
How does it work with Julian Watson? Because you
very,
work
very well
together. Because he's been. Is he slightly removed from everything because of his position?
No, Speaker. He's Speaker of the House. Therefore, welfare for us, and but he can ask questions in Timble. Which
you don't share an office like everyone else does. He's got his own office, hasn't he? He's got his posh.
To be honest with you, the whole office thing, it doesn't really matter because we're all virtual, if you like. So and that's about accessibility. So if I don't see Julian in the Timble office, or we'll see him in the constituency, or at events. So. Very good relationship.
Do you want to keep this job? I mean, there's going to be a reshuffle at some point. Do you think you're the danger man because there might be change? I mean,
Well, a week in politics is a long time, you should say. But
do you feel battered a bit? Battered. I mean, I ask you this every year.
You did ask me. Yeah.
You must go home sometimes. And go, is this worth it?
I think what you got to do is it's all about having that mental strength to stay focused on the job, and that's what I do. And I think if you put yourself forward, you've got to be prepared to be attacked and put your head above the parapet. So what you've got to do is have the courage of the conviction, but courage of that conviction comes on being well informed and making the best decision, and that's ensuring that you've got the people around that you sense test things. If it be through the department, we always make very collective decisions in the department, and it goes through to council and then Timble.
So you're enjoying yourself still? Or was that too strong a term, enjoyment?
Is it rewarding, I guess, is a better word. You know, is it challenging? Yes, absolutely. But it always would be. So for me, I have no issue with that whatsoever. Got into it. I think back to 7 years ago when I got into this. You know, the Isle of Man and particularly the economy, which is was the number one reason I got in, because I could see where we were with regards to our fiscal position. You know, with regards to the budget, the VAT, the banking crisis, etc. So where we were from then to now, I think we're in a lot better position.
So should we?
I hope I played a part in that.
So we should be a happy nation. I mean, you're thinking that we should feel good about ourselves.
You know, it's all about. It's interesting you talk about measurements, really, Paul, because that business confidence survey is a really, really good point. Because do people feel confident? And when people are prepared to actually commit that into a survey, I think that speaks volumes.
Numbers time. You didn't give yourself one last year, but I am being a bit more pushy this time. Yeah. How do you rate yourself?
I would suggest. I didn't give a number last year.
No, you're doing the usual thing, but it's not for me to say. But well, I'm afraid it is now.
It isn't. You're going to push.
Yes,
I would say I would say a 7.
Yeah.
If I'm fair.
If no one wants to answer it, they always go 7. I think so. That's a safe 7. Yeah, it's 7's a pretty. As steady as she goes. Not spectacular, but it's not bad. It's a good. It's an okay number. Government-wise, I mean, you're inside the tent. I use that analogy all the time. So you're there with your other wise men looking around the table. How do you view the government and the whole lot altogether? I mean, how do you think you're doing overall?
Well, I think overall we would be a very solid 7. You could push us to almost an 8, and go to the programme for government, Paul, because at the end of the day, we've all, I know as our department, we've got plenty of KPIs and action points, but there's ownership there, which is really important. And we introduced this programme for government very, very early, unlike in the past. And what that did do is it give us, that's the measurement right there. What are we delivering in respect to that? And of course, there's plenty of curveballs that are thrown in between there. And let's face it, if the economy's going well and business confidence is very strong, that's in the face of the massive international agenda that we have and all the pressure that we have externally. That is constant. And to be honest with you, it doesn't always get the headlines, but it is very real, and it's something we're very alive to.